there, and welcome to the Modern Day Mirror podcast. We're reviving the lost art of storytelling with true stories from listeners just like you. We're here for the humor, nostalgia, the lessons, and to reflect each other's light as modern day mirrors. Hey there, folks. It's your host, Cecilia. And today's episode includes a trip down memory lane to revisit the complexities of high school friendship. You remember that weird time in our lives where external validation feels like life or death, and hormones commandeer priorities. Our story begins with the makings of a complicated friendship triangle, one third of which is our storyteller, Mikaela. Let's take a listen.
So it all started back when I was, I believe, in 10th grade. I had a friend group, I believe of about 5 of us. But really it was kind of divided like all friend groups, certain friends are closer to each other than others. I was friends with these 2 girls named Trisha and Mariana. It was us 3. And I had always kind of felt like in a friend group of 3, there's always 2 that's kind of closer than the third one. And the third one always gets left out a little bit. That was totally the case here. I usually felt like I was the one being left out. There was a sleepover in 10th grade that Trisha invited me and Mariana to at her house. And Trisha's house is so cool. So it was so fun going there. They have like a movie room, a cool winding staircase and stuff. We usually chilled in the movie room most of the time, watching TV or movies or just chatting. And I believe we had our sleeping bags set up in there too. We were chilling that night, and Trisha was talking to this boy at the time. I don't even remember his name, and I don't even know if they ended up dating. But all of a sudden, her and Mariana are talking a little more amongst themselves. I'm feeling a little left out, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm still having fun at this point. And then as it gets later in the night, this boy ends up coming over. Of course, once her parents are asleep and nobody's aware, and her and Mariana end up meeting him outside. How it was decided that only them 2 were going to go, I'm not sure. I just remember a situation of it kind of being like, oh, we'll be right back. And so I was just there by myself for what felt like a really long time. Something in my gut tells me at least like in 30 minutes to an hour. Again, it felt like forever. And luckily at this point, I had my cell phone. And so I texted my mom and I asked her to come pick me up. Actually, I think I called her because I didn't have text like that on my phone at that time. She freaked out because I was crying and she was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? But she came and picked me up right away. I had gone to the bathroom, of course, because I'm like, what if they come back in this time and they see me crying or hear me crying and they're going to ask what's wrong? And I hate confrontation. So I knew I wasn't going to tell them. And of course, in between that time that I called her and she was coming to pick me up, we lived about, I believe, 15 minutes away. They came back inside. I had just made up some lie that I was sick and that I had to go home. I wasn't feeling well. And they were like, oh, okay, because I did not want to talk about it. That was that. And I think me being a Cancer, when I'm done with people, I feel like I'm done and I'll just kind of cut people off.
So wait, what was it like when you went back to school?
I think from that point on, I kind of distanced myself. Trisha ended up leaving the school that we were going to go to a school closer to her house. We kind of lost contact just because we didn't see each other every day anymore. And also just because I stopped reaching out more. So after high school, I went to a community college, and I believe it was like my second year in community college that Trisha had reached out to me on Facebook because I had posted something about One Direction. One Direction is a boy band that got famous from a British talent show. They make stereotypical boy band pop music, or at least they're not together anymore. So I had posted something about One Direction on Facebook and she responded. And music has always been such a huge part of my life, and I love connecting to people in that way. And that's kind of how our friendship rekindled itself. We just both really loved the band and started talking about a lot of pop music that we like and had in common.
Wait, so was there any mention of the sleepover? Like what happened that night? Did you ever tell her?
I told her maybe just a few years ago. So I would say about like 15 or 16 years into our relationship is when I brought it up. And she had no recollection really of it. She remembers the sleepover, but she doesn't remember leaving me. She's, of course, apologized, and I've come to know her and know that, we were just kids and there was no ill will, and she didn't do that to set out to hurt me or anything like that. But it now it's something we look back and laugh at because we have been friends for, I believe, about 18 years now. Music was the catalyst, but we discovered that a lot of our values were similar. I think I fell in love with her goofiness and we just balance each other out. We always say that we married the boy version of each other. Her husband is very similar to me and she's very similar to my husband. And we always joke about it because when, girlfriends like to complain to each other about sometimes how their spouse is annoying them. And I always tell her, oh, I can totally relate to him. And she always says the same for Jason. She's so ride or die too. There was a one time when Ed Sheeran, I guess I would classify him as a pop artist. Back then when we started liking him, he was more like indie folk, but he was having a secret show held by a radio contest that we were trying to get tickets for. And we could not get tickets, but it ended up being that she knew someone who won tickets to the show on the radio. And the location was secret. So she reached out to her friend to see if they would give us the location of the show. And they did. So she took time off her work day. She worked downtown where the show ended up being to come hang out with me and kind of stalk him.
Wait, stalk Ed Sheeran?
Yes, we found the location. We waited by the door. We chose the back entrance and we got super lucky because we saw him come in. There was no one there. It was literally empty street, us, Ed Sheeran, and his team walking in the show. And they were kind of rushing. It was a little bit later than what the show was supposed to start. So we just said hi and we were like, oh my God, I can't believe we just met him. But we waited because we wanted a picture. He came back out and saw us again. They were, of course, on the rush to his big show at the arena in town that night. So his manager was walking with him, trying to rush him off. We were just like, hi, can we get a picture? And his manager answered for him. And they were like, no, sorry, we got to go. They kept walking. And Ed turned around to us. Ed, like he's my best friend. He turned around to us and he came back for a picture really quick. And we were just like, thank you so much. Have a great show. But like looking back at it, I can't believe she kind of left her work day, gave herself a long lunch just to do that. That's pretty special. We even went to Vegas most recently to go see Bruno Mars at his MGM live shows. And that was amazing. Just living in the moment and having our phones taken away. They locked all our phones up before the show and just living in that moment together was so fun.
So it sounds like music really brought you guys together.
Yeah, for sure. Still today, we haven't been to a concert together in a while, but we're trying to plan that up now that we're married and thinking about kids. It's harder to make time for that, but we still try. Having girls that you can lean on is super important for that community. I don't expect my partner to be my everything. So sometimes I feel like I get a fulfillment out of my female relationships that I don't with my husband. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I think girlhood is just amazing and being able to relate to one another as women and, the struggles that women go through in society are things that, our husbands can't necessarily relate to. So it's nice to have that community of women to lean on for that. Sorry.
Take your time.
I do believe in soulmates and that they don't necessarily have to be romantic partners. And I definitely think that Trisha's one of mine. I think with the friendship that and the connection that we've established, that we have some sort of telepathy even now. It's so funny. We'll text each other at the same time that we're thinking about one another, or text each other the exact same thing at the exact same time. So it's pretty cool, the connection that you can form and the bond that can be between two women. And you know what they say, that if people don't think you and your best friend are lesbians, are you really best friends?
I don't know that we have language to describe the complicated nature of healing from older versions of the people we love. But as we heard in today's story, there are definitely pros to doing so. Thanks so much to Mikaela for coming on the pod. You can find links to her Instagram, the Modern Day Mayor's social media pages, and more info on how to become a featured storyteller by checking out the podcast show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for being here.